Hi guys, this is going to be a video on how to do a micrography portrait. And this time we're going to be doing it of Gordon Ramsay. The reason this one is a human portrait is just because that's what students have most commonly chosen to do their final project on is of a face, but you certainly don't have to if you'd rather do like a animal or a landscape or whatever kind of subject matter you're interested in, that's fine. It just seems for some reason with this project, like 95, 98% of students always choose to do a portrait. So that's why this is the practice one that I'm requiring. But if you plan to do a different subject matter, feel free to go ahead and do a practice subject matter that matches your interest. I'm going to go ahead and bring you down here so you can see. All right, so I have a reference photo of Gordon Ramsay, and then I have a blank outline of Gordon Ramsay. So what we want to do first is we want to identify the darkest values. And if we think back to our value practice and our value scales, we want to identify these areas that are really dark within the image. So if I'm looking at this original reference image of Gordon, where I'm seeing really dark values, obviously the background is really black. The pupils are quite black. His irises are dark, although they're not black. I think he has blue eyes. I'm seeing some dark value in the crease of his lips, in the folds of his ear, in the neck. I'm seeing shadows in the eyelid, and I'm seeing shadows along the edge of the face and cheekbone. So this should all be familiar to you from last week's video. Now we're just going to kind of practice putting it into place. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to just start by filling in some of those darker areas. And I just did the letter G inside of his pupils because he's Gordon Ramsay, y'all. And I have a few different pens. These are just pens that I grabbed from around my house. Oops, that one. It's a little bit fragile. So because his iris is a lighter value in this picture, I am using larger words. Larger words is going to give you a lighter value. I think what I'm also going to do, let's see. I think maybe I'll do some value down here in the neck. Now I'm just choosing to write his name, which is Gordon. If you have no idea who this is, he's a chef. He has a variety of shows, like he has Kitchen Nightmares, he has I think MasterChef, MasterChef Junior, Hell's Kitchen, just like tons of shows. So I really recommend it. It's great shows. He has such a fiery personality that it's fun to watch them, and it's fun to watch them while you do this assignment because then you can write down some of the stuff that he tends to scream at his kitchen staff. I won't say that he's the nicest person in the world. Definitely on his MasterChef Junior, he's super sweet and kind to kids, but to adults, he really tends to put them in their place, and he can really get off on a tangent and yell some funny stuff. Kind of cracks me up. All right, so I'm trying to create some darker value because that's what I'm really noticing is happening under the ear. So I'm using that overlapping technique. It looks like this inner ear is really dark as well, but it's not dark the whole way. So I'm gonna overlap less. Now, ideally this works best with some sort of like fine tip pen or ball tip pen, ballpoint tip pen rather. It doesn't work amazing with like the fat part of a Sharpie. That just doesn't seem to work. A fine tip Sharpie works great, but a fat Sharpie, not so good. All right, I'm also noticing some shadows down here in the chin. and in this crease above the chin. Definitely on his cheekbones. I'm increasing the size. Sometimes I like using a ballpoint pen for this because it doesn't give you that rich of a black tone, which can really be effective on skin tones, especially paler skin tones. And this guy's from England, so you know that he's really flippin' pale, which makes it a little bit challenging, but it's gonna be okay. Seeing this shadow right here, this is like his brow bone area is casting a little bit of shadow. He really doesn't have a lot in terms of eyebrows because of his pale complexion. It is looking crazy right now, for sure. I will admit that. I'm also drawing this upside down so that way when you guys watch this, you have a view that is right side up. So it's a little bit harder for me to draw this way. You'll notice the contours of his face. I definitely am writing text over them. And that's how you would do it in yours as well. It definitely for sure looks creepy for a while, but it'll come together. Don't you even worry. Let's see, where else am I seeing some shadows? Some of this lighter shading, I wonder if you won't mind too terribly if I just flip it for a minute so I can kind of get an idea. I feel like this area here, I could really work on building up the value. Looks like there's a whole chunk of value right here in this space. So I'm gonna go ahead and try. It goes from this crease right here of his like frown line up to his brow bone. Because you really don't want a lot of white. Because really, we talked about portraiture, the whites areas, the highlight in the whites of the eye, highlight on the nose. That's really kind of it. Even though he's a white guy, he's not literally white. You know what I'm saying? Fill in some of this eyebrow. And I know that this might feel like, ooh, it's a little bit high stakes, it's a little scary to do, because maybe you only have the one printout of it. You know, it's totally fine. If you mess up, do not worry, just keep on going, even if it gets a little dicey for a second and it's ugly. That's fine. Almost all art projects, you know, they have an ugly duckling stage. Very few art projects are going to be beautiful like the whole entire time that you're making them. So push through. Don't be like, oh my god, I got a piece of, ink here and I didn't mean to get it here. Don't worry about it. Push through, keep going. Everybody makes mistakes and nobody's going to see this except for you and me, So don't worry about it. It's very low risk, Just try to engage in the process. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm not looking for this to be a beautiful finished work. This is practice. Remember, this is just your chance to practice this method that is relatively new to you. Okay, so don't worry about it. And if you're wanting to do a different type of subject matter, like we talked about, and you're nervous about figuring out how to draw it, I know this is maybe not the best recommendation, but sometimes you can put a piece of paper gently over your laptop screen, and I'm talking super gently, you can trace that image. You don't want to press hard so that you're damaging the screen of your laptop, obviously, because that would be bad. Then you would have to pay a fine. Okay, so don't do that, but you could super gently. And next week, I think I'll show you guys how to draw from a grid. That way you don't need a trace and you can produce a larger image. All right, so I'm just I really look at the reference all the time to figure out where the dark values should go. I never ever guess. You don't want to guess because then you're going to produce sloppy work that is not realistic. It's not based in how light and shadow really work. You cannot guess when you are doing a portrait unless you've been doing portraiture for years, or if you've been doing it every single day and you're really a master in proportion. Don't guess, because the placement is really going to make a big difference on how this all shakes out for you. Now he is wearing a chef coat, which is white, but it is has some shadow on it, because literally everything has shadow in life. Okay, you gotta have those dark parts to accentuate the light. Just trying to use a little bit of a quicker font here, trying to use some cursive to get that taken care of. Let's see, what else are we thinking? Seems like this eyelid area is pretty dark, so I'm gonna keep on writing his name. Gordon, Gordon, Gordon. And the nose, I'm really trying to use that pressure method of not pressing very hard, because I know that I need to have light values over here. I will say that the scale of this that we're working, the size is a little bit small. It would definitely be easier if this was a full sheet, but I wanted to make sure that you had both of these on the same side of the packet, so that way you could easily reference. When we make these, we're going to hopefully use the large paper that I gave out in class, or that I gave out during the supply pickup day. If you were not able to do the supply pickup, or if you were not at school the day that I gave out the large paper, that's okay. You can do yours on smaller paper. But ideally, that is what I would like for you all to use, is a larger format paper when we move on to doing the final work. Okay, so he's looking a little Frankenstein-y here. I think I'll flip him over so you can see a little better. Actually, that looks cool. That looks cool when you're seeing it. Right side up for you, I think. Kind of a highlight in this area, so I'm going to try to get that taken care of. Really stretching the text out here because it seems like this area is particularly bright. All right, under this eyelid, I think I'll go ahead and do a little bit of shading. Along the nose, I'll do some. Above his eyebrow, it's his brow ridge. I'm going to use heavier pressure there because it seems like it's darker. He's got some major forehead creases. I wonder if that's from being so mad at people all the time. It's really kind of taking a little bit of a hit on his skin, you know, being pissed off all the time. Probably not that great for your skin if you're always frowning, being mean to people. Seems like this needs to be really dark inside this ear, so I'm going to use my darker pen. And if you're not sure if you're doing something right, feel free, reach out to me. I am on my laptop all the time, and when I get an email from students, it just pops right up in the bottom corner and shows me. So I usually respond within a couple minutes, especially if it's during school hours. I tend to respond pretty quickly to you guys. Definitely within 24 hours, but most of the time within an hour, unless it's the weekend. Then I'm kind of doing my own thing. With the hair, I'm trying to create just some motion, so I'm just following the contour lines that are already there. He has some hair where he's a blonde, but there's some shadow being cast, so we definitely get some areas where it's darker. Speaking of how you could figure out ways to use different texts, so right now I'm obviously taking like the easiest route and I'm just writing his name. But like I mentioned earlier, if you watch his shows, it's really fun to include phrases that the person commonly says. But let's talk about what if you're not doing Gordon Ramsay, which probably you're not. If you're doing a musician, a really good way to incorporate some different text is to use their song lyrics, like from their popular songs. Or if you're doing a movie star, to include like the script from the movie that they're in. That's a really good way to do that as well. Or if you're doing a family member, if they have written letters to you, or a friend, you could do text messages from them. There's just so many ways you could do it. Sometimes I see students write out like the features like on the nose. They'll literally write nose, 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 eyes, 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 ears, ears, ears. That's one way that you can kind of incorporate some variety into things. And that can be really fun. So there's lots of ways that you can do this. You can do inside jokes, you can do all kinds of stuff really. He definitely is looking kind of like gosh, Beauty and the Beast. He looks like the Beast to me. So we might need to fix that up a little bit. How can I improve that? I'm gonna do a little bit of squiggly overlapping here on this brow ridge. I don't know if that's gonna help or hurt, but I'm just gonna give it a try because remember, we're giving ourselves some patience and we're giving ourselves some freedom to make mistakes because this is not a big deal. This is not about things being perfect. This is about learning how to be flexible and adjust so that way we can make mistakes here so our final can go smoothly. This is where you want to make the mistakes. It's easier to make the mistakes here on a small piece of paper than it is on a large piece of paper. So since I already laid down a lot of text, now I'm kind of giving myself that freedom to use a little bit of that scribbling, or sometimes it's called scumbling, to use that technique. And I'm only doing that because I've already laid down the text. I think it looks sloppy if you don't put text down first. Because then you can tell that you really didn't put any words into it. So don't use this right off the bat. Use it once you've already created a foundation of words. Whew, this is getting a little tricky. Let's give him some more structure. He needs more bone structure over here, methinks. I also think that this scribble or scumble technique, I think it works best with the ballpoint pen. I think if you use a darker ink pen, it can just be a little bit harsh. I want to create a real clear division between the head and the neck because I feel like that's a big area of shadow. Especially right here, this is such an intense shadow. I'm gonna go almost solid over here. And then that's a chef coat. This area still could use a little bit of work, this eye over here. I'm gonna do a little bit of shading in the white of the eye. This looks really nice on large scale portraits when you do that. It shows good attention to detail. Have to be careful with the smaller portraits though because you can accidentally give them zombie eyes pretty quick. Gonna try to get in the hair and give that a little bit of a darker value. I want the hair to look darker than his face because I feel like this skin of his face is a lot lighter. So we want to make this go ahead and look some darker, getting some cursive in here. Whew, in terms of where it looks darkest, it looks really dark right here. So I'm going to try to squiggle that around a smidge. And then I always think it looks nice if you have like a few little wisps that are made of really neat text. It just kind of helps add that little touch, finishing touch of detail. Looks quite nice. Sometimes I see people in large white areas do like huge lettering, and that can be fun too. Because really plain white paper is not all that interesting. All right, let me take a little look here and see, do I feel like I missed anything? I'll do a little bit more right here on the edge of the nose. A little bit more on this brow ridge, maybe a little bit more in his wrinkles of his face. A little more on the cheekbones. Any of those bone structure areas, they really help darkening up the shadows there. A little bit here, a little bit on this edge, a little bit on the edge of the mouth. There's always room for adjustment, so be picky with yourself. Push yourself to go farther. All right, I think that honestly looks pretty complete to me, so I'll go ahead and hold it up for you. That is what a finished practice micrography would look like. It's okay if you have some sloppy stuff up here where you are experimenting with your pens. That's all good. All right, so that's what we're going to work on this week. Go ahead and give this a shot. I'm putting the due dates as Friday. However, I'm super flexible. If you need more time, just shoot me an email and you'll get more time. No worries. Really missing you guys. Hope that you are doing well, staying safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.